Jason Lee just hinted that he's sitting on information so explosive it could shatter the image of music's most untouchable power couple. We're talking about secrets that could expose what's really been happening behind closed doors in Beyonce and Jay-Z's marriage for years. And here's the wild part. Jason didn't just drop hints quietly, he went on camera and essentially tried to blackmail Queen Bee herself, saying he'd keep his mouth shut only if she made certain things happen for him. At the time, fans dragged him for filth, calling him bitter and desperate for attention. But now, those same people are rewinding his old clips, wondering if he actually knew something all along. Because suddenly, whispers are spreading that Beyonce might actually be preparing to walk away from Jay-Z, and everything Jason said months ago is starting to sound less like clout chasing and more like a warning nobody wanted to hear. This isn't just gossip anymore. The timeline is lining up too perfectly, the behavior is changing, and the silence from Beyonce's camp is deafening. Industry insiders are connecting dots that paint a picture way darker than anyone imagined. And if even half of what's being whispered turns out to be true, we're about to witness one of the biggest revelations in entertainment history. The question isn't whether drama is coming, it's how much will actually get exposed when someone finally decides to talk.
So let's break down how Jason Lee ended up in this mess and why he felt bold enough to go after Beyonce publicly. Everything kicked off in December when Beyonce threw her massive Renaissance movie premiere in London. She invited influencers from all over, rolling out the red carpet for people to celebrate her project. But Jason, he didn't get that golden email, and he was heated about it. Now, here's what made it sting even more for him. Jason claimed he dropped a wild $40,000 on Renaissance concert tickets and merchandise, bringing his whole crew to experience the show. In his mind, that level of support and loyalty should have automatically locked him an invite to the premiere. But Beyonce's team had other plans, and Jason watched from the sidelines while influencers with way smaller platforms and barely any investment got to walk that red carpet. He felt disrespected, overlooked, and he wasn't about to stay quiet. Jason went on camera and called Beyonce out directly, saying she doesn't support black media the way she should. That accusation alone had the internet split, with some people agreeing and others saying he was reaching. But Jason didn't stop there. He kept going, making it clear he felt used, like his money and promotion were good enough for Beyonce when she needed ticket sales, but not good enough for an invitation when it was time to celebrate. The rant was passionate, personal, and it rubbed a lot of the beehive the wrong way.
Then things took a turn that nobody saw coming. Jason jumped back on his show shortly after and started dropping sneaky hints about dirt he supposedly has on Beyonce. His guests were visibly shocked, eyes wide like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. But Jason wasn't playing around. He looked dead into the camera and basically tried to leverage whatever secrets he's holding. He said he'd keep quiet about the tea he has if Beyonce could pull some strings and get Kelly Rowland to appear on his platform for an interview. That's straight up blackmail behavior, and he said it so casually like it was a normal negotiation tactic. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or gasp. Some thought he was joking, trying to create a viral moment. Others saw the seriousness in his tone and realized he might actually be holding something real. At the time, most fans dismissed it as bitterness mixed with desperation for relevance. They figured Jason was just salty about the premiere snub and was reaching for anything to stay in the conversation. Nobody actually believed he had legitimate tea on Beyonce and Jay-Z's marriage. But fast forward to now, and those same clips are being analyzed frame by frame. People are re-watching his facial expressions, listening to the confidence in his voice, and starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he wasn't exaggerating.
The timing of everything feels too suspicious to ignore, especially with new rumors swirling that Beyoncé might genuinely be preparing to separate from Jay-Z.
Now let's talk about something that's been making fans uncomfortable for years, but keeps getting brushed under the rug. The timeline of how Beyoncé and Jay-Z actually got together has never quite added up, and the more you dig into it, the messier it looks. Beyoncé has publicly said she was 18 when she first met Jay-Z, and that they started dating about a year later. That sounds fine on the surface, right? But then there's this one interview from way back in 2007 that completely contradicts that story, and it's the kind of slip-up that makes people's stomachs turn. Jay-Z was sitting down with Charlie Rose, and when asked how long he'd known Beyoncé, he got visibly nervous. You could see it in his body language, the hesitation, the quick glance away. Then he said they'd met 10 years earlier. 10 years! Do the math on that, and it means they crossed paths around 1997 when Beyoncé would have been just 15 or 16 years old, and Jay-Z was already 28. That's a grown man in his late 20s getting close to a teenage girl. And no matter how you try to spin it, that age gap is uncomfortable. Fans have been side-eyeing that moment ever since it happened, and it's one of those things that never fully goes away, no matter how much time passes.
But it gets worse when you start looking at Jay-Z's pattern with younger women throughout his career. Before Beyoncé, there were whispers about him getting involved with Foxy Brown when she was still in her mid-teens. Word around the industry was that he took her under his wing, promising to help her career blow up, and their relationship allegedly went beyond just professional. People couldn't help but compare that situation to what went down with Diddy and Cassie years later. Diddy was 36 when he started dating Cassie, who was only 19 at the time. The power dynamic, the age gap, the mentor-turned-lover angle, it all feels disturbingly familiar. And it's not just Foxy Brown either. Over the years, Jay-Z's name has been linked with other young artists like Aaliyah, Tiara Mari, and even Rihanna back when she first came into the industry as a teenager. Now, some of these might just be rumors, but when the same pattern keeps showing up over and over, people start connecting dots. The uncomfortable truth is that Jay-Z has a history of being around very young women in situations where he held all the power. And that's a fact that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. Fans have pointed out that his relationship with Beyoncé follows that same blueprint. She was young, he was established, and he had the influence to shape her career in ways she couldn't have done alone at that age.
What makes this even more questionable is how tightly controlled Beyoncé's image has always been. She's notoriously private, barely does interviews, and when she does speak, it's always carefully calculated. Some people think that's just her being smart about her brand, but others wonder if there's more to it. There have been whispers for years from people like Uncle Ron, Beyoncé's alleged former bodyguard, claiming that Jay-Z controls everything about her life. According to him, Jay manages her business moves, her public appearances, even how she presents herself to the world. Uncle Ron has said that Beyoncé is kept on a tight leash, influenced and manipulated behind the scenes in ways the public never sees. Those are heavy accusations, and they paint a picture of a woman who might not have as much freedom as we think she does. If any of that's true, it raises serious questions about the foundation of their entire relationship. Did Beyoncé ever really have a choice in how things unfolded, or was she guided into this life by someone who had way more power and experience than she did at the time? The more you look at the timeline, the age gap, and the control allegations, the harder it becomes to ignore the red flags that have been there all along. Then Jaguar Wright came through and threw gasoline on an already raging fire with some of the boldest claims anyone's made publicly about Jay-Z. She didn't hold back, didn't sugarcoat anything, and what she said had people's jaws on the floor. Jaguar straight up claimed that Jay-Z is actually worse than Diddy. Worse. Let that sink in for a second. She said he's smarter, more patient, and way less sloppy than Diddy, which makes him even more dangerous. According to her, Jay-Z has been strategically positioning himself for decades, lining up people he calls friends, and then stepping to the side while they take the fall for things he's involved in too. That's cold, calculated, and if it's true, it means Jay's been playing chess while everyone else thought they were just hanging out. Jaguar also alleged that the reason Jay-Z has been so quiet during all of Diddy's recent chaos isn't out of loyalty or respect, it's out of fear. She claimed that if Diddy ever decides to start talking and exposing what really went down behind the scenes, Jay-Z would be implicated too. And she didn't just stop at business dealings. Jaguar went further and said that if the truth came out, people would find out how Jay allegedly treats Beyonce in private. And it's not the fairy tale love story we've been sold. That right there had social media absolutely losing it. People started pulling up old interviews, old lyrics, old moments that suddenly looked different under this new lens. Jaguar also brought up all those old industry rumors about Jay-Z and younger women, naming Foxy Brown, Aaliyah, Tiara Mari, and Rihanna. She didn't present it as gossip. She presented it as a pattern that people have ignored for too long because of who Jay-Z is. And honestly, fans have not forgotten those whispers. Hearing them brought back up in this context with everything else that's swirling around made people start questioning things they'd previously brushed off. But here's where Jaguar really hit a nerve. She said that people need to start a campaign to free Beyonce the same way they rallied to free Britney Spears. She called Beyonce a prisoner in a gilded cage, surrounded by wealth, fame, and luxury, but without real freedom or autonomy. That comparison shook people because it reframed everything. Suddenly, Beyonce's extreme privacy, her controlled image, her lack of spontaneous public moments, it all started looking less like careful branding and more like something else entirely. Fans who'd always admired her for being so put together started wondering if maybe that polish was forced, not chosen.
And the thing is, Jaguar Wright isn't just some random person throwing shade. She's been in the industry for years, worked with major artists, and has her own stories about how things operate behind closed doors. Whether you believe her or not, she's speaking with confidence and specificity that makes it hard to completely dismiss what she's saying. She's not being vague or dancing around accusations. She's naming names, calling up behavior, and daring people to prove her wrong. That level of boldness usually doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from someone who either has receipts or is so fed up with keeping secrets that they don't care about the consequences anymore. And when you combine her allegations with everything else that's been bubbling up, Jason Lee's blackmail attempt, the problematic timeline, the uncomfortable patterns, it all starts forming a picture that's way darker than anyone wants to admit. People are starting to ask if Beyonce really is living in a cage. And if so, how long has she been trapped there? The idea that Queen Bee, one of the most powerful women in entertainment, might not actually have control over her own life is terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time. And if there's any truth to it, the fallout when it all comes out is going to be absolutely massive. Now let's talk about that Grammys moment that had everyone's spidey senses tingling. Jay-Z recently stepped into the spotlight to defend Beyonce during the ceremony, calling out the Recording Academy for never giving her the Album of the Year win she deserves, despite having the most Grammy wins ever. On the surface, that sounds like a supportive husband standing up for his wife, right? Fans initially cheered him on, praising him for using his platform to highlight the disrespect Beyonce's faced from the Recording Academy. But then people started paying closer attention to what was actually happening in that moment, and the vibes were completely off. Beyonce's body language during Jay-Z's speech was strange, to say the least. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't nodding along, she just had this blank, distant stare, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. Some fans said she looked tense, maybe even irritated. Others pointed out that she seemed uncomfortable, like she wanted to be anywhere but in that seat listening to her husband talk about her. That's not the look of a woman who's touched by her partner's words. That's the look of someone who's either checked out emotionally or barely holding it together. And when you combine her allegations with everything else that's been bubbling up, Jason Lee's blackmail attempt, the problematic timeline, the uncomfortable patterns, it all starts forming a picture that's way darker than anyone wants to admit.
But here's where it gets even weirder. And this is the part that really had people talking. During the entire speech where Jay-Z was supposedly giving Beyonce her flowers, he never once said her name. Not once. Instead, he kept referring to her as this young lady. Like, what? Fans online were confused and heated at the same time. Why wouldn't you call your wife by her name during a moment that's supposed to be about honoring her? The phrasing felt cold, distant, almost like he was talking about a stranger instead of the woman he's been married to for years. People started dissecting that choice of words, wondering if it was a Freudian slip that revealed how he actually sees her, or if there's some weird power dynamic at play where he refuses to acknowledge her as an equal. Either way, it didn't sit right with anyone watching. And then, as if the whole thing couldn't get any stranger, Beyonce and Blue Ivy got up and left the Grammys right after Jay-Z's speech. They didn't stick around for the rest of the show, didn't stay to support Jay when he accepted his own Global Impact Award later that night. They just dipped. Now tell me that's not suspicious. Let's break down how wild that actually is. Jay-Z showed up to the Grammys to accept an award from the very institution he was publicly dragging for disrespecting his wife. So he respects them enough to take their trophy and give a speech, but at the same time he's calling them out for being biased? Make it make sense. And if the Grammys are really that problematic, why is Beyonce even there in the first place? Why subject herself to sitting through an event that allegedly doesn't value her work? The whole thing felt performative, like Jay was trying to score points by defending Beyonce publicly, while actually putting her in an uncomfortable position she never asked to be in. And the fact that she left immediately after suggests she wasn't feeling any of it. Fans compared the energy of that moment to what went down with Diddy and Cassie at the BET Awards right before her lawsuit dropped. Diddy made this big public show of shouting out Cassie, acting like everything was perfect between them, and then months later, the truth came crashing down. People are wondering if Jay-Z's Grammy speech was the same kind of move, a last-ditch effort to control the narrative before everything falls apart. The timing, the tone, the awkwardness of it all, it just felt like damage control disguised as support.
Meanwhile, behind all the public appearances and carefully curated moments, Beyonce's been moving in a way that has people convinced she's building an escape plan. She's been laser focused on launching her own projects, her new hair care line, teasing a fresh album, pushing her brand harder than ever. And here's what's interesting. Insiders are saying she's doing all of this separately from Jay-Z's influence. For years, so much of Beyonce's business ran through Roc Nation, Jay's company, but lately people have noticed a shift. She's reportedly cutting ties with certain projects that used to go through his team, and her own circle looks completely different now. Sources close to her say she's handling her own deals, keeping things tight, and making moves that don't involve Jay-Z at all. That's a major change for someone whose career has been intertwined with his for over 2 decades. It's like she's quietly untangling herself from his empire piece by piece, and most people didn't even notice until now. What's really catching people's attention is how Beyonce's been showing up lately. There's no more couple branding, no matching energy at events, no cozy moments for the cameras. Every time she's seen in public now, she's solo, polished, and all business. At first, fans thought it was just part of her rebrand for a new era. But now, with all these rumors swirling, people are starting to think it's part of a bigger strategy. The look, the distance, the independence, it all screams someone who's preparing to stand on her own. And let's be real, Beyoncé's been through years of public speculation about her marriage. We saw it play out through Lemonade, through the Apology Tour, through all the cryptic lyrics and visual albums. But this time feels different. There's no art project hiding the pain, no coded messages for fans to decode, just straight up silence. And that silence is louder than anything she said before. It's the kind of quiet that comes from someone who's already made a decision and is just waiting for the right moment to execute it.
Even her body language at recent events tells a whole story on its own. When Jay-Z tries to engage with her in public, she barely reacts. No eye contact, no soft smiles, just calm detachment. Like she's physically there, but emotionally checked out. Fans have been dissecting every clip, pointing out how her posture has changed over the past year. She stands taller now, more poised, almost like someone who's already made peace with walking away and is just going through the motions until it's time. It's the energy of someone who's done fighting, done explaining, done trying to make something work that's been broken for a long time. And what makes this even more telling is the complete radio silence from Beyoncé's inner circle. Normally, when rumors start flying, her mom Tina or her sister Solange will drop a subtle post or make a statement to shut things down. But this time, nothing. Absolute silence. And that's what's making people more suspicious than ever. The lack of denial, the lack of pushback, it all suggests that maybe there's nothing to deny because something real is actually happening behind the scenes. People in the industry are whispering that Beyoncé's been moving this way for a reason. She's allegedly stacking her own money, building her own empire, and making sure that when she does walk away, she's not leaving empty-handed or dependent on anyone. That's the move of someone who's been planning this for a while, not someone making an impulsive decision. And if the rumors about Jay-Z's connections to Diddy's mess are true, then Beyoncé distancing herself now makes even more sense. She's protecting herself, her brand, and her legacy before everything potentially blows up. The whispers are that she doesn't want to be standing next to Jay when the truth comes out about whatever he's allegedly been involved in. She wants to be far enough away that when the storm hits, it doesn't take her down with him. And honestly, that's a smart move if that's really what's happening. Beyoncé's built too much, worked too hard, and sacrificed too much to let someone else's choices destroy everything she's created.
The energy around this whole situation feels tense, like everyone's holding their breath waiting to see who makes the next move. Will Jason Lee actually drop the receipts he claims to have? Will Beyoncé finally break her silence and tell her side of the story? Will Jay-Z address any of these allegations, or will he continue to move in silence, hoping everything blows over? And what about all the other people who've been dropping hints? Jaguar Wright, Uncle Ron, industry insiders who've been whispering for years. Are they all gonna start speaking louder now that the conversation is finally out in the open? One thing's for sure, if this situation keeps unfolding the way it has been, we're about to witness one of the biggest shakeups in Hollywood history. The kind of moment where power dynamics shift, reputations get destroyed, and the truth finally comes out no matter how ugly it is. And when it all comes crashing down, if it comes crashing down, the entire industry is gonna feel the impact. Because if Jay-Z and Beyoncé, the ultimate power couple, can't survive their own secrets, what does that say about everyone else who's been hiding theirs? So what do you think? Is Beyoncé really preparing to file those papers and walk away from everything? Or is she too deep in the empire they built together to ever truly leave? Is Jay-Z about to face the same kind of reckoning that Diddy's going through right now? Or will he somehow manage to stay above it all? And what about Jason Lee? Is he really holding explosive information, or was he just talking big to stay relevant? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over. Make sure you hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, with the way things are moving, the next update is going to be absolutely wild. And don't go anywhere. Click on the next video on your screen for more celebrity drama that's gonna blow your mind. This story is just getting started, and you're gonna wanna be here when everything finally explodes.